Hi, how's it going today? Today I want to show you a more advanced video on how the GIS import tool works. So let's jump right in. You can see I've actually already brought in GIS layers into here. So I'm going to open up a new file and show you basically how the whole thing works. Now it's important that you have the correct version of Microstation 2023. 0.01.44 is required to run this. I'm going to flip over to the GIS workset and hit new. What pops up first is some instructions. You can see I have the version required right there. And then the slow way is basically what the macro is doing for you. The fast way is the macro. And then several layers don't come in properly. So I'm basically just going to walk you through how the slow way works so you understand what the macro is actually doing. So first, ensure workflow is Geospatial Context. So let's flip over to Geospatial Context. Now this is a new workflow, Microstation 2023. So the second one, so pan, zoom to where you want to go. So I'm going to go just pick some random spot in the Perl. The bigger your area, the longer it will take. Select query features. So if I click this, it's going to bring in GIS data, but how does it know what data to bring in? Well, I've basically created these different connections to a feature service. And so if I want to make a new connection, assuming I had nothing in this file, then I can click new, but I'm going to click edit to show you the ones that are already pre-loading in here. And this is the real power of the seed file, a file that already has all the feature connections set up correctly. So in this file, I have 6 different feature connections. It'd be awesome if these were all on the same feature connection, all the layers I wanted, but they're not. So for example, PBOT public assets has curbs and shoulders, street lights, sidewalks, and walls. But I have to go to a different feature connection to find inlets, inlet map, lines, storm pipes, all these different things. So I basically have 6 different connections. If I wanted to add in another one, for example, let me just show you how I would add this in theoretically. We basically have a depository of a lot of public data. We also have private data as well, which is currently unavailable in Microstation, but hopefully that will be a feature that will come in the future. But say, for example, I wanted to bring in active address points. I would just click on that. I would type in the server URL. It automatically created a connection name. I'm going to hit OK. And it's telling me which ones do you want to bring in. I actually already have text parcels map. I can just leave these on and I can change them later if I want. Now when I go to edit, there's going to be a 7th one in here. That's the one that I just brought in. So maybe I want to bring active address points map in here as well. So what happens now when I click query features? It takes my viewport, brings them all in. Now it's literally using your viewport as a clipping boundary. If I made my viewport a tall, skinny size like this, it would just pick what's in my viewport and not a square shape. So are these actually in my file? No, they're actually not in your file when you first start. If I hit this clear features, they will all go away. Let me come over here and click query features. It brings all the data in, and it also brought in those active address points as well. So how do I actually bring this into my file if they're not in there? I can just highlight them all, copy them over. It's the first step that the macro does. It just copies everything into your file. Now when you hit clear features, all the ones that are referenced in go away, but these ones are actually in your file. Okay, so what would be the next step? I want to get them on the right level. I want to get them all cells tied in. Some of these have fills located with them, and I don't really want to fill. So basically, I'm going to go to my drawing tab, and this is the next thing on my list is change workflow to drawing. So change my workflow to drawing, and then assign element templates to all layers. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to start with this level, which is tax lots. Select it. I'm going to highlight all of them. And then I'm going to use my change element attributes, and I'm going to select the correct template, which for tax lots is survey lot line. And when I click, it applies it. How did it know to take off the fill? That is a great question. I basically have set up element templates for each of the levels that we want. Element templates are essentially a way to link level, color, line styles, and weights. But you can do more than just those 3. You can actually add in an active cell, so I can bring in a cell with those, or I can actually tell it if I want the fill type to be on or off. So that was sidewalks. Now if I click on the sidewalks layer, highlight all the sidewalks, change my template to E-road sidewalk, it not only puts it on the right level, but it actually changes the fill to not having the fill. What about those points? This level is called streetlights. Let me bring in the streetlights. I'm going to assign an element template to each of those, and the cell is actually baked into the element template. All right, so what else is the macro doing besides just changing those over? There's a few cleanup things that it's also doing. It brings in all these cells as shared cells, which we really don't want. So I really want to drop these to become normal cells. So that's another thing that the macro does. Also, for whatever reason, a bunch of other models are created with some of these, and they have these image files linked to them. And so I clean that up with the macro as well. If I wanted to actually look at the macro itself, I would go over to Utilities, I would hit Edit, and I can look at exactly what the macro is doing. So I have this text in here telling you what it's doing. First, it's querying the features, then it's copying everything and pasting it. Then I clear all the query, basically brings everything into your file. Then it changes some of the defaults for the element template dialog, this one. Basically looks at each level, so rail buried, and it's going to highlight everything on that level and apply the correct element template. So next it's going to do rail track. It's going to take everything on this level. It's going to put it on this element template. Basically goes all the way down and does that for each of the different levels. And then at the very end, it converts the shared cells to normal cells and deletes all the extra models. So the last thing that I haven't quite set up yet is I'd like to be able to add in where these references get turned on, clipped, and brought in. So it really was just a one button push, because that is something that still needs to be done. All right, so now I'm going to run the macro again. You can see what it's doing, and hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to have this open here while I do it. So let me go in here, and I will play the macro. So right here, it's bringing in all the geospatial context features. Still bringing them all in. It's querying them all. You can see right here. Now it copied them all and brought them in, and now it's right there, changing the element attributes, putting them on the element templates to make them work. And then all those models are gone. So that's basically how it works. One error that a bunch of folks were getting was that when you actually queried the features, several of the levels would not come in correctly. And the reason is because of what I was showing you a little bit before, how it's creating these models. When I flip to one of these models, there's like an image, and this image is actually being saved on the server somewhere. Interestingly enough, it is being saved in the workspace file. So I've actually changed where I want it to save. It saves all these funky image files. They're very small, but they are, for whatever reason, required. I'm not sure if that's the way our GIS data is set up, or it has something to do with Bentley, the way they're bringing some stuff in. But you had to be able to write those to some sort of saved area. If you didn't have read-write access to the U drive or our BTE CAD drive, then you were not able to bring in certain levels. I basically moved that over to a different file where everyone can save it to, and now everything works well. I hope this has explained how the macro works, and if you have any suggestions or comments and want to make it better, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much. Have a great day.